of a victim, one of the major drawbacks how the victim cannot get the justice is their protection and the question of livelihood. That is the major factor. For this, we can make a certain type of protection house and the opportunity, if she is unemployed or if she do not have any kind of employment opportunity, then the state can run certain type of establishment, including the cottage industry types or something else, or it can ensure certain type of job according to the skill that the victim do have. And if she is too much psychologically traumatized, then there is the question of rehabilitation, or the psychological counseling must be there in order to integrate in the society. Otherwise, what happens that the woman feel that the society are against her, or she is quite biased to the male, and she sees each and every man as her what the rival or whatsoever. That is the matter, that the social integration is also the part. The third is the intervention for the perpetrator is two different aspects we should go through. The one is the matter of deterrent, means what is the possibility. Or for that we should go through either the psychological counseling to multiple aspects that may be, and at the same time we should ensure the criminal justice or the fair trial matter is also there. And the perpetrator, there may be the multiple instances that the perpetrator who may be habitual, as well as sometimes it is accidental. There may be two different. The habitual perpetrator, or if there is the repetition of the crime, then I think that the justice system should be quite rigorous to the particular individual. And if it is for the first time, then I think that the legal system may introduce certain type of penal provision, which may either by the social work or either being in the certain reformation center, that may be the opportunity. I think that's all.
Thank you. I'll just clarify a couple of things just so that we can move our discussion forward on the same page. The Equal Opportunities Commission in Hong Kong only has a mandate to help complainants reconcile with respondents on issues relating to discrimination legislation in Hong Kong. So they don't have a mandate to deal with domestic violence cases at the moment. And I don't envisage that
we can lobby for the change, that the legislative change, we can enact new legislation, and we can also create a certain type of mechanism. We can directly address the issues that is directly related with the social problem or domestic violence, like that. The sexual harassment and multiple things is there. The sexual harassment is also the question of domestic violence and sexual harassment. I think in certain extent that do have the certain type of psychological factor, that whether the woman thinks that it is if certain praise is pride, then she thinks I am good looking, and at the same time, the same statement she thinks that I am harassed. The domestic violence is also amount to the same nature. If the particular inmate partner thinks that the certain type of abusive, permissible, then that's okay. And that is the question.
I'll just stop you there, because I want to hear what other people have to say as well. But also just to reflect. So when the domestic violence ordinance in Hong Kong was undergoing an amendment process, there was a proposal that we should have a specialized domestic violence court. But at that time, that proposal did not pass through the Legislative Council. So I'll just say that for now. On the other issues, there are immigration constraints relating to work provision for people with a less permanent status here in Hong Kong. So particularly migrant workers who are not on their domestic worker contract, or refugees, they are not allowed the right to work. Of course, it's been lobbied, it's even gone to the highest court in Hong Kong, and they are not yet able to avail of the right to work.
I think that I want to compliment, not different opinion, but we should use, or you should pressurize, we should pressurize the Hong Kong government that the freedom of movement as ensured by the ICCPR, or why it has not been observing the obligation.
So I think we're on the same page. There's been extensive international lobbying on all of these counts, and these proposals have been made, and the matters have been going through court. And I mean, I'm only saying that to identify sort of areas where there is campaigning, there is lobbying, but we still seem to be in the same place. That's the only reason I'm mentioning where we're at in Hong Kong. Okay, so that's one sort of perspective of sort of how to lobby or what areas we can lobby for in terms of change and set up a different system or framework through which to deal with domestic and sexual violence issues. Any other groups want to share their reflections? Yes.
Yeah, we have a good discussion. But basically, I will say my impression that counseling service itself is very female. So we don't really develop male style behavioral change therapy or whatsoever to help them change their behavior. They may not really want to do like this, but they don't know how to deal with their frustration, they don't know how to manage their anger, they do not know how to handle the automatical thoughts. So, and this make them easy to be using drugs, alcohol to deal with it, and then come with violence. So I really feel men is not like that. Talking, they don't think it will solve anything. Talking is not the way. So, and then how to help them. And we just have funny discussion said, probably we need to create apps like The Sims to ask the man, okay, you play this game, make the woman happy, and then you satisfy that. Then you learn how to behave. Beating this woman will not make you high score. You will not end up success in this game. So this is more man way, right? You are not expecting them sitting in the room and talk to you. I'm wrong. No. So this is just some funny ideas I think about. Of course, there are many ideas.
I think that's brilliant. You've managed to combine fun with motivation to enter into some kind of therapy. Liz,
could I just say that it's not quite an app, but there is a gaming kind of thing that they've developed for dating violence for youngsters. A group across Europe under this Daphne Scholarship, and what they did was they basically designed a game about sort of dating and violence and conflict resolution, and they are using it. They're going to be reporting in December, and some of this is like being built forward to see if it would also be used in intimate partner violence, and it's very much about that. It's trying to get something that's real, that's skills-based, that's behavioural. So your app sounds fantastic.
There's also a US college, in fact, that has a similar game for sexual harassment to sort of help raise awareness among freshmen. And they sort of test their knowledge, sort of what would you do? Or is this wrong? Is that wrong? Is that sexual harassment? And that's a way of educating them about, what are appropriate and inappropriate standards of conduct. Thank you, Jessica. Anyone else? Yeah.
So I guess we just spoke about that one of the key findings that seems to have come out of the discussions is in terms of sort of the complexities and diversities within relationships and the real heterogeneity within the IPV, I guess. And how do you develop responses that can, or approaches that can really respond flexibly to the needs, whether someone is a victim, perpetrator, victim, the different forms of relationships, as well as the different contributing factors such as substance abuse. So it's IPV is complex, and so how do we respond well to something so complex? And we shared, I guess, our different experiences in terms of responses in both the Philippines as well as in Australia. And in the Philippines, it's much more of, I guess, a family and neighbourhood style model, while in Australia, neighbourhoods are not, I guess, as strong as they used to be. So there's a greater reliance probably on the legal system and the welfare system. So I guess we were looking at ways in which you could draw on various responses to have, I guess, a model that encompasses various options for women so they can choose the best that suits them and men to suit the relationship they're within. So we didn't come up with an answer, but I guess we started thinking about how can you create that more flexible approach? So I guess it's more of a question to take forward.
Yeah, but I think the very important point that you're touching on is the fact that there should be alternative models to understand and deal with, recognizing that not everybody would be necessarily willing to engage one system or the other. So that's a really, really important message. Others? Yes.
Thank you. I was thinking about this actually over lunch, but wouldn't it be a good idea in Hong Kong to set up some sort of help desk? Because what we heard this morning was that questions normally popped up as people were on the job, not necessarily while they were being educated as social workers or police agents or whatever. So I was thinking it might be an idea to set up a help desk with professional expertise, or even just a forum that's a closed forum so that potentially confidential information can be shared to a certain extent, so that people can get information that they might need while they're in the situation that they have questions on.
Okay. And might have some experience with a help sheet that she distributed, at least to get the project rolling in the hospital, right?
Yes, I think this is a very good idea if you can set up a forum and then group the different disciplines together to share some expertise how to handle the cases. But I actually, there's one way that also need to consider some special duty or role or characteristic of different professions. For example, just like the doctor and the nurse in the A&E department, they're very busy. They're not easy to explain very details about different services. So we will always design a different kind of very simple service card or service sheet to the doctor and the nurse. If they receive this kind of cases, they just just give this information sheet to the patient, and also encourage the patient to make a phone call to some of the service unit. And also, I think, and also the similar like to some lawyers, the same that, because I also have some lawyer friends. They also will easily, if we receive this case, they don't know what is the service can provide for their client. So this will WhatsApp to me what kind of service I can provide that. So I will also encourage them to try to, I think this is good that if we can also distribute and design some specific information sheet or card or something that's for different related professions, especially maybe a lawyer, maybe a doctors, maybe a private doctor. Actually, some cases not go to A&E department, they could go to their family medicine doctor. So they just very handy information can just provide them that. Okay, sorry. Just very handy information provided to their patient or client. I think it's very easy just for them to reach out to some related service. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry to jump in again. Last year I did some work for this organisation in Australia called 1-800-RESPECT. You can look up their website. And so we've been working on a website that sort of acts like the help desk for both service workers as well as for victims themselves. So there's tools on there, there's activities for workers to use, there's fact sheets, it's best practice, it's based on evidence. So it's another option, especially for people such as doctors or people who aren't in the field and sort of want something that they can use when they're working with their clients. So
what's it called?
1-800-RESPECT. It's also a phone line for women so they can access workers, but they've started to really try and develop the website to capacity build the sector. So just another idea. I just wanted to throw it in before I forgot. Thanks.
Other sparks, ideas?
Yeah, I want to add the policy level implication for. I think that it should be the domestic violence or any type of familial violence or the remedies that should be included. What are the remedies? What amount to the violence or the crimes? That should be, if that is included in the high school level text, that will be. I think that it would give a long-term return, because in our own experience, what happens that the government is funding for the toilets in the rural area, but people are not using the toilet, but they use for the other different purpose. But when that is included in the textbook, the situation is totally changed. Means the children can, at the same time, the reporting of domestic violence to the police also has been increased day by day, because the children are if the father or mother abused the particular parents, then they ask to seek further remedies to the police or the other organization. Means I think that for the policy implication, long run return, I think that if it is included in the school textbook in one form or another form, then that would be, I think, quite better.
Yeah. So education early on. How about, yes, Luna?
We were talking about this during lunch, and the police sometimes see these matters as domestic matter. So if someone complains, the police may come and say, "Oh, this is what happened. Do you really want to complain? Then your husband will end up in jail, blah blah, loss of income, etc." So the case not even probably reported in the police case. They're probably not even a case. So I wonder if the government or the police decide to make this as like zero tolerance to violence. So would they make domestic violence as a police performance indicator, that if you can detect and record this, you will have a tick in your performance? I mean, this would be quite important for them. I mean, for the police, a lot of the time they are called, and of course for the doctors, also family practice as well. I think the domestic violence reporting, a lot of the grassroots people, they will go to the public hospital, but then what about like higher income families? The level of domestic violence, the rate is probably not lower than the grassroots low income family. So those kind of family violence, how do we also tackle that? Would having the police having that as one of their performance indicator help to prevent more serious crime from happening, like murder or serious abuse from happening?
Yeah, I think those are really, really important points. And I just wonder whether the police manual in which they have defined or chosen to define some forms of violence as incidents has anything to do with the government's you could say emphasis on maintaining family unity or social harmony. Maybe that's what dictates it, but redefining that role. Of course, we need to bear in mind the other extreme might be sort of what you have in some places, which is a no-drop prosecution policy, where as soon as you get a call and you show up on the scene and you think there's enough evidence, you go ahead. And it doesn't matter whether the victim is willing to follow through with the prosecution or not. And there have been pros and cons to both approaches. So it's important to think through how to have an effective system.
Yes, I think that it's important to make the police understand how to identify this is not just only family dispute case, because they will classify this as family dispute case or family violence case. It's just only dispute case, just solve the conflict, finish. But if it's domestic violence case, actually I will say that nowadays in Hong Kong, no need to get the consent from the party. The police can pass the case to the social welfare department to, more or less we can say that tries to make the social welfare department to know that this is the case, it's a domestic violence case. Those social worker can make a phone call to contact with these cases. But also that's what for the client, they can say, no, I don't need social worker. But at least the social welfare department, the FCPSU, the Family Service Protection Unit, mainly for handling the spousal abuse cases under the government department, they could identify this is a domestic violence case referring by the police. Even the both parties not agree, this is also can refer this case to the social welfare department. But also the social worker in FCPSU, they will voice out that sometimes it's very difficult because when they try to contact with this client, they say, I don't need counseling. But at least this is maybe the first step. At least we can disclose this case, and then the social worker tries to approach them. But another question is, but if the police identify this is a family dispute case, they will not refer out this case. They just keep it, okay, settle down, finish. But if the police can identify this is a violence case, they can refer out the case.
So it comes down to policy and what kind of impetus is there to have this. I mean, we have the zero tolerance policy that is part of the government's own campaign against domestic violence. So the question is, why is there this soft touch approach is sometimes as seems to be displayed by the police and what can be done about it. Also, the other point I think you raise is really important. So the violence that is prevalent in the middle to upper class, which again is not often picked up on. And in my interviews, at least, I learned that health professionals are not familiar with spotting the signs, and they're not using any kind of screening tools to understand injuries that they're presented with. So definitely there's a need to communicate on that front and open up that. Yes.
Sorry, just on that basis, one of the pieces of research done by a colleague of mine a few years back identified that many victim survivors in Scotland will talk initially to their friend, and then they will seek help from medical professionals and lawyers, particularly if they have resources to do so. So they won't seek help from the police because they're trying to avoid the criminal, the whole labelling aspect, but they would make provision, but it's through medics and lawyers. And that's precisely why, to an extent, I think medics and lawyers need to be trained about these things, because they can then make the appropriate referrals and identify risks. I mean, to an extent, our laws are such that if there is some sort of domestic abuse disclosed to a medical professional, they would have to report it in because of potential child abuse and child protection issues, and people have to do something. So we have a system which is called Getting It Right for Every Child. Under the GERFEC legislation in Scotland, there is absolutely no possibility of not reporting, which to an extent has meant people are aware of that, and actually some of the reporting into services has dropped off, because as soon as somebody discloses anything to education, health, housing, whoever it is, they have a duty that is incontrovertible. It's a duty. You have to take that further. So there's some real positives, but maybe some limitations as well, but it's a really important legislation. And in terms of your sort of police type work, I mean, we've also suffered from the sort of doing nothing is not an option was a phrase, and a zero tolerance and mandatory arrest. So not in Scotland, but in Merseyside in England, they had a mandatory arrest policy. So any allegation of domestic abuse will be followed by an arrest. That's irrespective of evidence. And what actually happened is they ended up with a number of dual arrests, so that they would turn up at a house, there had been a disturbance, there was a distressed woman who was quite difficult, making no sense, and maybe some evidence of bruising and something. So they would be thinking of arresting the male partner, and then because he would say, but she hit me first, so he makes a verbal accusation, they arrest the female partner, at which point they then need to call social services to look after the children. And actually, to an extent, it was making it much, much more difficult, because what would have potentially been one arrest and then time maybe to review things when somebody is on bail, or it just ended up, it created a resource issue. That doesn't mean that doing nothing is a good idea.
Yeah, so we considered the mandatory arrest policy when we did the law review as well, and that was exactly, yeah. So there are arguments presented and then the counter arguments, and the question is, so where does the practice converge exactly? Where's the balance? Because you can't ignore risk, but are we even maintaining records? So I think, Luna, your point really goes to risk assessment and at least having the relevant information on record somewhere. Otherwise, clients would not be able to take their claims further later on down the line if they have been subject to persistent abuse. We have just about a minute or minute and a half before I'd like to wrap up. Are there any other groups that want to share? Okay, well, it remains for me then to thank all of you for your contribution, and I hope that you found this day to be instructive and enlightening, as it was definitely for me to have the opportunity to engage with others working in the area. So thank you all very, very much, and thanks also to our overseas guests, Liz and Polly. Yep. If you're interested in the material from the seminar, this will be online on CCPL's webpage. And if you missed any part of the presentation, they'll also be online for you to retrieve and watch at your leisure. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah.